Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sovereign Helper podcast. Today is episode 148, The Power of Soul-Led Service. I am so excited to be here with you. All of you who've been with me before, welcome back. And if you are new to this podcast or new to my work, welcome. I'm so delighted that your soul led you here. So my name is Lisa Espinosa, and I'm a spiritual career coach for helpers, for heart-led helpers, change makers, visionaries. And I help my clients to create more impact, to share their unique gifts, what I call your unique soul's medicine, to share your wisdom without abandoning yourself, to do it from a place of overflow rather than from a place of depletion and overwhelm and even burnout. Right? So today, this is a really important topic. I know I say that every week because they all are very important, but this is really like a core teaching. Right. And it's like, and the intention with this podcast episode is that that it helps you to start to discern, to notice when you are serving from your ego consciousness versus when you are serving from your soul. And the reason to do that is because as you notice that, you will be able to shift quicker into soul-led service. Because soul-led service, first of all, is the most fulfilling, joyful, abundant way to serve. So first of all, it's for your own joy. And second of all, it creates the most miracles, transformation, answered prayers for your people. When I say your people, it's whoever you are here to serve. Okay? And I want to share, it's usually not either or. It's not usually that clear cut. Sometimes it might be, but most of the time, I really do believe if you're drawn to my work, if you're drawn to this podcast, you have this intention, this prayer to be of pure service. Maybe you don't use the word service. Maybe you use the word, maybe it's leadership, creativity, whatever word you use. But you want to help people. Right? You're not like, oh, I just want to do this for my own glory, right? It's like, no, you want to help people. However, we're human and we have an ego consciousness, ego programming, ego structure, whatever you want to call that. And so we get pulled out of that alignment. So most of the time, it's not either or. It's not like you're fully in your ego it's more like it's somewhere in between. But the more this can become clear in your mind and in your heart, the more you can kind of stir and keep coming back and like increasing your capacity to stay in the power of soul-led service. Okay. So I have my notes here because I wanted to like make sure I didn't miss anything and not go too off on a tangent, but I looked up the definition of service, and the definition by the Oxford Dictionary is helping, supporting, and guiding others. Okay. Now, I've had clients before where the word service really kind of triggers like servitude or like overwhelm. So if that word doesn't resonate, that's okay. You replace it with your own word. At the same time, I really want to invite all of us to reclaim that word, like to what it actually means. And this is kind of what this episode is about as well. So service is helping, supporting, and guiding others. But the most important thing is like how you serve, how you provide service. And so, as I said, you can provide service from the ego or service from your soul. So I'm gonna share the ways, the key signs of when we're caught in creating service from our ego. So first, let me do a little background in case you've never heard my teachings before. So I'll just do like a little foundation here. So I truly believe your mission, your divine assignment, right, is to provide service, inspiration, transformation, to be an example of what's possible. And you are meant to do that. We are meant to do that by aligning with our soul. And when I use the word soul, I mean your higher self, your true self, the infinite consciousness, the divine being that you are, right? You're a divine being having a human experience, right? In a physical human body. And the heroic journey that we all take on when we are in this human body, in this earth, is to be this divine being in this human body and also have an ego program running through us. So I'm talking about the ego from a spiritual perspective, not from a psychological perspective. So the ego structure, think about what word helps you understand this better. Ego structure, ego program, ego consciousness, whatever word you want to use. That is this program, like a computer program running through us that is designed to have us look outside of ourselves for answers, have us compare ourselves to others, have us go into analysis, have us think that we're either better than others or worse than others. The ego structure is stuck in a polarity, right? It just believes that what it sees with its physical eyes is what is true. Our soul is completely different. Our soul is our truth, is infinite, sees way beyond what the ego can see. But really, I invite you to appreciate how noble this assignment that we have is, that we are this divine infinite awareness, and we agree to go into a limited physical body with an ego consciousness that literally is constantly telling us you're not enough. Or for some people, when you go into narcissism, it could be like, you're better than others, you're better than others, you're better than others. Both are a problem, right? You're not enough, you need to prove yourself, all of the things. And so what I want to let you know, this is normal. All of us, until we ascend, have an ego consciousness. The noble assignment that we're on is to decide that we're not going to let the ego run the show. And so when I coach my clients, I'm not telling them the ego is bad, you need to beat it, you need to resist it, you need to overcome it. No, because we're not meant to. As long as we're here in a human body, the ego consciousness is going to be with us. And we know what we resist persists, so that's not the answer either. But the answer is also not giving in to the ego. That's what a lot of humanity does, right? For various reasons, we just give in to the ego. Like, we believe the ego is the truth. But if you're watching this, you know that isn't true, right? You're like, you have a sense of that, you know that. And so what it becomes is knowing the ego is going to be there. The ego is going to feed us these thoughts, but recognizing, wait, that's not actually true. I'm going to come back to my soul. So let's talk, now that I gave that foundation, let's talk about, well, what does serving from ego look like? One is, the key sign is that it's serving, helping others in an attempt to prove your worth. Even now, that might be really, really unconscious. You might not be saying, I want to help all these people to prove my worth, but there's that core fuel in the background, right? So it's like, oh, I want to write this book, and maybe, yes, there's a deep truth that I know because I know it'll help people. But then the ego gets in the way, right? And it's like, but I want to write it and I want to make sure people like it, and like, I better have some people buy it and read it, and like, if only 2 people read it, that means I'm terrible, my medicine sucks, I'm not really valuable, right? That's where the ego comes in, right? Like, that's what it does, that it comes from lack and scarcity and needing to prove ourselves. I need to have this amount of followers on social media to prove that I'm a good coach, or I'm a good helper, right? I need to present at conferences to legitimize my work. I need to publish books so that people take me seriously, right? I need to make sure never to get my clients and students angry because they have to be happy with me the whole time so that I know that I'm a good person. And so on and so on and so forth. And it's very subtle. It can feel like truth, right? Of course, if we teach a class, for example, it feels wonderful to teach a class and have people say, oh my gosh, that was such a great class. That was so helpful. Thank you. There's nothing wrong with that. So I don't want to suggest that. Of course, that feels good. The problem is when you need that. When it's like, nobody said anything good about my class, that must mean it sucked. Or only 3 people said something good about my class, but that one person kind of questioned me, and I'm terrible. Because this is what happens when we're serving from the ego. We're a slave to it. We become imprisoned to it. If people say good things, we're like, yes, but it doesn't last. That's how you know that we've been hooked by the ego, right? Where you do something and maybe you get the accolades and you get the positive feedback and you feel amazing, but then after a few days or a few weeks, you're kind of like, or somebody says something even slightly negative and you're like, right? And so it's like there's this need, I need it, I have attachment to it. And so it diminishes your power. Because I know, and I was stuck in this. Even I can even think back on when I was a teacher, and because I used to teach before being a coach, I used to teach seventh grade back in Chicago. And I remember when I started presenting at educational conferences, like kind of sharing with other teachers or professors, like the curriculum that I was teaching my students, or I did this black and white photography project with my seventh graders. That was a lot of work, and it was a lot. And when I started presenting, I remember the first time it was this conference, and the way the conference worked is basically professors would come, would look at the catalog and decide, okay, I'm going to go watch this one or watch this one. So you would be in a hall, like in a hotel, and like some rooms would have like 10, 20 people, 30, maybe more people in the conference. And some people would have one person, and sometimes you would have none. And I was like terrified, like, oh my gosh, like just feeling so much like, oh my gosh, I'm here. What if nobody shows up? What if only one person shows up? I think I kind of felt like that would be worse because it'd be so awkward for the one person, right? It's like there was so much, and I have so much compassion for myself. It's not that I look back and I judge myself. Of course, I didn't have these teachings back then. I was doing my best, and I'm so proud of myself that I kept showing up. But this is what happens when we don't recognize that the most heartbreaking thing is when like when I have people come to the free consults that I offer, and I can tell how much good they have to offer the world. And maybe they already are. They're therapists or they're coaches themselves or they're entrepreneurs. They've already helped a lot of people. But their soul is guiding them to help more, to create more impact. But because something happened, either somebody made a bad comment on Facebook, or they lost a client, or they taught a class and only one person showed up, their ego so took over their ego structure that they've just been afraid to put themselves out there. Or maybe that didn't even happen, but just imagining it, they're like mortified. And so that is the biggest danger of this, is that it can lead to you watering down your medicine, your gifts. And so that's why it's important to understand. And so let me just look at my list to make sure. Also, when you serve from your ego, it can lead to overgiving, to going into rescuing, right? Because we need that positive feedback. So we don't want to disappoint our people. And so somebody asks for help, well, we better say yes, because I don't want people to think I'm selfish and I'm stingy or I'm not a good helper, right? And then that could lead to depletion and burnout. It could lead to resentment, where you start resenting your people. Right. And I share all this because I've been in all of these. I've experienced all of this. So please, again, I'm normalizing it. This isn't about having shame about it. Like, oh, I'm a bad person that happened. No, you're a human. You're a soul having a human experience. And so it also can lead to you shape shifting, like watering yourself down. Right. I shared this story in last week's podcast. I shared it in my newsletter. If you subscribe to my email, about my birthday, right? How I was celebrating my birthday here in the new country, right? We've been in Mexico now for 2 years, but it's still fairly new. And like all the ways I was shocked how much my ego structure was coming up to like, no, 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 don't do that. Because these are relatively new relationships, right? They're not like deep friendships yet. There's people I'm meeting, I'm connecting with. So as opposed to Chicago, where I already had established relationships, where I was friends with women who we all were, a lot of us met in yoga studios, met in new age spiritual classes. So we were all like very comfortable. Just, I mean, gosh, I would have my birthday at like a spa place and I'd be wearing a crown and we would have oracle cards and crystals, all the woo-woo stuff, totally in it, amazing. Here, this was a different group. So as every step of the way, right, my ego was like, no, 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 don't be too much. No, 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 I don't know about sending crystals. I don't know about having like a magical word in each little bag you're going to give people. Not sure about the gluten-free vegan cake. People might think it's weird. They might not like it. And then that's my crown. When I bought that crown and I was like, I want to wear that crown because it's my birthday. And my inner child was like, yes. But then my ego was like, are you crazy? People are going to think you're weird. Like you're going to show up in this Indian restaurant wearing this crown. And then they're going to be like, why is she wearing a crown? Like all the people I invited. So this was the ego. I know this is a different example, but this is what it does, right? Like you fill in the blank with your examples where it starts to water you down. Don't be too much. Don't be too much. Don't be too much. You need to belong. But because I've been in this work for so long, I recognized it. I had compassion for those parts, and I was like, that's okay. I want to show up authentically me. And if they do think it's weird, yeah, maybe my feelings will be hurt. I mean, they're all very polite people, so it's not like I expected anyone to be like, you're a weirdo. But if I energetically felt that they were uncomfortable, or if they started ghosting me afterwards or whatever, I was prepared for that too. Because I was like, no, I want to show up authentically. And so I think I went a little off on a tangent, but this is what serving from the ego structure will have you water yourself down. Now, I do want to be very clear. Shape shifting is different than, you can be serving from your soul and recognize I need to slightly shift my message here because the audience is different. So if I'm presenting to a group of, teenagers, like maybe high school students, seniors who are starting to think about going to college and what they're what are their gifts? What are they going to do for a living? How are they going to serve? I'm going to present very differently to them than when I present, I just a few weeks ago, right, led a meditation kind of self-care class for therapists. It was like a group of 35 therapists, all like probably upper 30s and older, who'd been therapists for years. Obviously, I'm going to adjust my message because it's a different audience. And that's part of the skill of being a helper. That wasn't coming from fear. It was just from knowledge. So I want to really be clear about that. I'm not saying that you're going to sound the same to every group, right? You're going to adjust. That's wise. That's wisdom. But shape shifting to belong comes from fear. So I think I gave you a picture of like what serving from ego looks like, right? I do want to say this because I gave a lot of examples from like, I need this amount of followers, or I need this, people to read my book. The other end of that can be that you never put yourself out there, right? That you're like, well, I still need to learn so much. No, I'm not an expert. Or maybe you actually know you are an expert in something, but you don't want to show off. Well, I don't want to show off. I don't want people to think I'm too much. Or I don't want to show up as an expert because then I'll be responsible, and I don't want people to judge me if they don't get the results I'm saying they could get. So it can show up that way. In fact, a lot of my clients, that's really part of the coaching, is helping them step into their expertise energy. Not from a place of ego, but from a place of alignment. Okay? So that's serving from ego. That's the problem with it. What is the problem with it? It leads to you depleting and watering yourself down and abandoning yourself. And your people don't get the results they're meant to get. They don't get the full expression of your medicine because your ego is there censoring it, trying to control it. So now let's shift to serving from your soul. When you serve from your soul, this is the main thing. And I really want you to know that this is like a superhuman thing. This is only something the soul can do. The ego's like, what? Because the ego's literally designed to not do this. So it's serving, helping, guiding without attachment to outcome. So that means you teach the classes with no attachment, meaning no like you're just doing it from pure service, and you're like, if one person shows up, awesome. If 100% people show up, amazing. If no person comes up, awesome, because I got to practice and get prepared, and next time people will come. So you can see how difficult that would be for the ego, right? Because the ego is literally designed to be attached to outcomes. So when I say that, I understand it's not easy. It's simple. It's a simple concept, but it's not easy. So it's something we're constantly refining, constantly practicing, constantly perfecting. We have compassion for ourselves because we know we have an ego structure. So of course, you're going to sense like, oh, I can sense those parts of me that are attached, which is, again, when I coach, this is why so much of the work we do together, it's parts work. It's having compassion for those parts, not making yourself wrong, not judging yourself, but then coming back to like, but actually, my soul can serve without attachment, right? And so that is like the gist of leading from your soul. But it also comes from understanding that when you're serving, there is absolutely no way when you're serving from your soul, it is impossible that you would add value and not get value in return. Because your soul is in a constant state of giving and receiving, giving and receiving. So when you learn, when you understand that there is no way I am going to add value and it is not going to bless me in return. Even if in the moment through physical eyes, like let's say you create a product and you're trying to sell it and nobody has bought it yet. But you know this product is so going to help people. I know that this adds so much value. I just haven't found the right way to tell people about it. That's okay. But I know as I put myself out there to sell it, as I tell people about it, like, and crickets, nobody's buying, nobody's saying anything. Maybe some people are even like judging you for it, but you know that as you keep adding value, by spiritual law, there is no way you are not going to be blessed. But the ego wants proof right away. And again, so you notice again the noble mission we're on. Like so many amazing people do not keep going because the what they perceive as rejection is so hard. They're just like, I'm never going to do this. Think about this, like literally crushes my heart when I think about all the helpers in the world that have some amazing, whether it's a product, whether it's a book inside of them, whether it's just a way that they can heal others or sharing their story. And they're not putting themselves out there because of all this stuff with the ego. And I think of like, not only their joy that they're missing out on, but all the people that absolutely are meant to be blessed by their medicine that aren't being blessed by it. And I have compassion for everyone because I understand this is something I have to constantly be working on. And so what happens when you know this, like, okay, when I'm serving from my soul, there's no attachment. When I'm serving from my soul, I know that I'm absolutely going to receive the blessing. And when you know you're going to receive the blessing, this is what's so interesting. You receive it faster. Because when you put yourself out there and let's say, again, nobody shows up and your ego's like, see, you suck. See, you're wrong. Oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. You're not cut out for this. Stop. Go do what you were doing before. And you give in to that. The value the blessing that was coming to you, it's not that God's like, oh, forget it. She doesn't deserve it. It's not that. It's just that we energetically literally block it. And so we must know it's like, this is something and the more you practice it, the more you see the evidence of it. And the more like you already have the proof and all your parts already start to trust it more. But so it's really important. And what happens is you start to expand your capacity every day to serve from your soul. You expand your capacity to hold the power, because I call this the power of soul-led service. It is powerful. At first, it might not feel that way. At first, you might feel like you're shaking in your boots, right? You're like, ah, right? I still feel that after all these, 15 years of doing this work. I don't feel it every day all the time, but I definitely it still comes up. And so there might be moments when it doesn't feel powerful, but you feel courageous, right? You know that you're like, okay, I'm willing to feel these uncomfortable feelings because I know my soul's guiding me to do this. All right, when I did my 30-day, I committed to doing 30 videos on YouTube every day, like 30 consecutive days. I mean, I was shaking all sorts. I was like, and I knew it was gonna go, that 7 of those days were gonna be me in San Antonio with all of the wedding things with my daughter. Right? And so I didn't feel powerful that first day or second day, or probably it wasn't until really I remember getting to day 15 and being like, okay, I'm halfway through. I'm not going to quit now. Right. But probably when I was like in day 20, 23, 24, that I was like, oh, that suddenly I was like, oh my gosh. And then I felt the power there. So sometimes we go through those tender, vulnerable moments before we fully feel the power of it. But the more you do it, the more you do it, the more you do it, you increase your capacity to hold and anchor that power in. And then your service, the impact you create, gets bigger. And then what happens when you're leading from your soul? You literally radiate more of your soul's light. You shine more, you glow more. And sometimes literally people will see it. Like you might even get that feedback, like, what have you done to your skin? You're so radiant. But it's just like an energy. It's a beacon. You become a beacon of light. That's what being a beacon of light is. A beacon of light absolutely is not being led by her ego. There's no way, because the ego literally is scared of our soul's light. The ego is aware of the soul, and it knows like, the soul has a completely different program than me. No. Right? It's suspicious of the soul. It's even frightened of the soul, especially when you start to say, I'm going to follow my soul and not follow the ego. So that already dims your light. I know there's conversations about false light out there. And false light, really what it is someone who in various ways has attracted a following, but they're doing it from their ego, from alignment to their ego structure. And that false light, what is it? It creates followers, it creates dependency. It doesn't create more light. And so when you are here to actually be a beacon of light, a pillar of light, a lighthouse, what it means is that you've increased your capacity to continue to serve from your soul. And you've increased it and 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 increased it. So more and more light flows through you, right? That's why Jesus said, right? You are the light of the world. Everyone has that potential and capacity. Everyone does. And yet we have free will and we can choose not to do that. But again, if you're watching this podcast, if you're drawn to my work, you are one of those people that's like, no, yes, I do want to do that. And so, and what's amazing after you do this is you are able to create more impact with less effort. Yeah, it's like more impact with less effort. Which is why when I say that I teach, that eventually what we want to get to is not only that I serve and help others without burnout. That's like the lowest bar. The really what we want to get to is like I serve and create more impact for more people than ever before from overflow, where I have time in my schedule to play and have fun and travel. It's not like, oh my gosh, I'm helping so many people, but I'm so burnt out or I'm so tired, or like there's so much bonding that can happen really amongst egos, right? Of like, oh gosh, like, yeah, my business is really growing, but I'm so busy. I didn't even have time to eat, or like, oh, I'm like so tired. Like, oh, I can't wait for vacation because then I'm like all of that stuff, right? And I've been there. But it's like, really, we have to understand that's the bar. That's where our soul, the divine God, is guiding us. Because why? Because the world needs so much help. And if we look at the help and we're like, I'm already at capacity, how could I help more people? Then we consciously or unconsciously put the foot on the brake. So you might be like, yes, send me more people. I want to create more impact. But you're like, but not too many people because I don't want to overdo it and I don't want to get burnt out. Instead of like, increase my capacity, help me really step into soul-led service. Help me feel the power of when I serve from my soul and how I can create more impact. I can feel it even with my clients now, right? Where it's like, I can see how, oh my gosh, even just after 20 minutes in the session, like there's been all this transformation already. Healing, unburdening, transformation, aha moments that maybe in the past took me an hour to get for them. And now I'm in a different place. And it's not because I'm rushing or I'm like, let's speed it up, let's rush. No, it's because I'm in a different place. And then when it's clients I've been working on with for years, they're in a different place. And then it's like momentum, right? It's like quantum leap, which I just want to give you like a little taste, because I think I'm going to do a masterclass on this. Remember, if you don't know, this year was a year of the snake. A year 9, a year of completion. I said also a year of breakthrough, a year of shedding, right? A year of rebirth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth. Next year is a year of the fire horse. Do you understand? Picture a snake and picture a fire horse, and it's a year one. There's so much. I was preparing my masterclass, which I haven't even said. Tomorrow is from shedding to shining, embodying your sovereign helper self. I'm so excited about this masterclass. And I was putting the final touches of the PowerPoint yesterday. And then when I was done, like hours later, I was like, wait a minute, there's a bunch of slides there I'm going to have to remove because it's just going to be too much content for one masterclass. And all of those were about the year of the snake and the year of the fire horse and just all this information that I just really downloaded and connected with of like why this year has been so important. How do we prepare for next year? The potential of next year. So I'm going to be doing that after this masterclass, but that's another example of being in soul-led service. When I did the masterclass PowerPoint yesterday, I wasn't thinking I actually was 3 masterclasses I created yesterday without knowing. I was just kind of like in the flow and then realized this is too much. I'm going to move this one. I'm going to keep the mini one. I still think I'm going to keep that one because I think that'll be important for tomorrow's masterclass. But talk about efficient. Like here, I thought I was planning 1 masterclass and I planned 3. All right. So, but again, that wasn't coming from my ego. Like, oh, I got to add a bunch of stuff to make sure this is valuable for people. And I want to make sure they feel like this is important. So then they feel like they should coach with me and no, it wasn't that. It was like, how can this be valuable? How can I explain this? Like, this is so important. I really want them to understand about the year of the snake and the year of the fire horse. All right, Mother Mary, guides, tell me, like, what do the helpers need to know? And I was just in the flow of like writing all of that stuff down. I'm literally getting goosebumps as I'm saying this. So it's like, so this is what it will look like in your specific examples. So I'm going to leave you with this question for you to ask yourself, which is when you serve from your, no, that's not the question. Sorry. This is the question. Because I said in the beginning, what I want, my intention with this podcast episode is that you start to have like this little antenna as you go through your day where you're like, ooh, my ego, I got hooked into the ego structure, serving from ego, but not from a place of beating yourself up, because that's just more ego, right? Not from like, oh, you're so bad, you're back in the ego structure, what's wrong with you? No, but from like, oh, there, I got hooked in. That's okay. My soul is way wiser and vaster than my ego, right? But I also know that there is some areas specifically right now that your soul wants to guide you in shifting more into soul alignment. So this is the question. Where am I serving from lack or a need to prove myself? Just take a few breaths and really be in your heart and just like ask your soul, where am I serving from lack or needing to prove myself? And receive that answer in your heart. And for some of you, it might be very, 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 very subtle. Maybe 90% you're in soul power, but there's that 10% that your soul's like, just, this is where the shift needs to happen. Or maybe there's an area where you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much attachment. And that's okay. Just notice that. And because the second step is offer compassion. Right? It's like, oh, it's okay. I understand. I have so much compassion for you. Like I've shared when I wrote my first book, I mean, it was definitely led by my soul, but there was so much ego attachment, right? There was so much of like, I just felt so vulnerable. And when my book came out, oh my God, I felt like a raw wound out in the world, right? And I didn't need to beat myself up for it. Thank goodness I had a coach that helped walk me through that. But also like I had to have so much compassion. And so then you're going to declare, I choose to serve from wholeness, or I choose to serve from my soul, or I want to step into the power of soul service. You find the words, right? But you're setting that intention. And as you do that, imagine your whole body filling with light, right? That your soul's because your soul always answers yes. Like your soul's like, yes, got it, right? Your soul's not like, well, you better earn it, or you got to work really hard, or you got to ask me 1,000 times, or you got to go sacrifice, or you got to go whatever. No, your soul's like, okay, I'm here to help you. And so again, the question is, where am I serving from lack or a need to prove myself? Also, I just got this download. Maybe for some of you, the question is, where am I holding back from service? Because there's a fear of lack or a fear that I need to prove myself. Right? So for some of you, that might be the question. You're going to have compassion. And again, each of these steps are steps I coach my clients through. So for number 2, if you're like, okay, then you're going to have compassion and you're like, that's really hard for me. How do I do that? Like you might be like, okay, I want to have compassion, but I literally don't feel compassion. I just feel judgment and pain and shame. And so 2 answers for you in that moment. Ask your soul for help. That's the first. Just literally say like, I know compassion is the answer, but I'm really having a hard time accessing it. Help me. And your soul will help you, whether it'll bring a book, a person, schedule a sovereignty consult with me. That's a free consultation. If you know like that's where you're getting stuck, I can help you with that. Right? And so each of these steps is simple, but not necessarily easy. 3rd step, then intend. I choose. I know my ego's hooking me in, but I choose to serve from my soul. I choose to serve from wholeness. I choose to step into the power of soul service. And then visualize your body like feeling like you're becoming a stronger light bulb, right? It's like, just visualize it. So that's a practice to help you anchor this in. And again, if you want private help, if you want private support, a lot of people have been asking me, how do I do that? I mean, I offer a lot of free things, right? The podcast, the masterclass tomorrow. You can go on YouTube. I have, I think, like almost 500 videos. There's so many things. But really, the quickest way would be schedule a consult where we can talk, right? When I can ask you questions and you can tell me some of your story, and it could be so specifically customized to you, right? So that's one way. And then the other way, and you can do both, is sign up for the masterclass tomorrow, right? Because that I'm going to go more deeply into like from shedding to shining, because that's where we're being guided to do. Shine, shine, shine. Shine so that your people find you. Shine so that you can repel the people who would want to cause you harm. I'll talk about that a little more tomorrow. All right, so I'll put the link in the comments and let other helpers know. I am so excited. I am so excited about these last days of the year. I mean, I know finished November and December, but this is like the time to stay present. Right? Yes, enjoy the holidays. Just spend meaningful time with your loved ones. I'm not suggesting you don't do that. But your ego will want to tell you, okay, well, you know what? I could just coast right now. And then when the new year starts, then we'll really try. That is an illusion, right? It's like, no. I want to stay present. It's not either or. Yes, I want to enjoy the holidays. Yes, I want to have time off. All of those things, of course. And I am staying present. I am staying present for this year of the snake, for this breakthrough year, for this year 9. I don't want any loose ends when I step into 2026, because then I want to be ready for the year of the fire horse. And I can't wait to have that masterclass with you about what that's going to be about, and the shadow side of that. Because remember, all of these year of the snake, year of the fire horse, these are the ways that the divine, that God has given us to give us a little like kind of like themes for the year, the potential. But we have free will. Just because it was the year of the snake doesn't mean all humans decided to shed what's unnecessary. And I'm saying that without any judgment. We understand why. So just because it's the year of the fire horse in the year 1 doesn't mean everyone's gonna like receive the potential of it. There's actually some really challenging things that can come out of that. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking about that. So I'm sending you so much love. Oh, I'm going to pull a card for you, and then we shall be done. This was a longer episode, but that's okay. Sometimes it needs to be. Yes, Jill, I love that. I choose to serve for my soul. Absolutely. What is the message for all of you beautiful people live or on the on the replay? This is from the Soulful Woman Oracle. Number 29, in the flow. When I am in the flow, magic happens. And so how do you get in the flow? By aligning with your soul. Your soul is literally flow. Your soul is always flowing. There's no obstacles. There's no speed bumps. Your soul is just flow, 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 flow. So look at this. In the flow. Again, when I am in the flow, magic happens. All right. Sending you so much love. I will talk to you. Hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow at the masterclass or in the consult, or if not, next week for episode 149. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for being here.